later. But stepping into the breach is his fellow New South Wales Senator Fierravanti-Wells. Connie, thank you for joining us.
Stephen, good morning, and can I echo your words about Jim? He is a fighter. He's seen many battles in his lifetime, and I'm sure this will be a very difficult battle, but we wish him very, very well, to him and to Anne and to all his family, and look forward to seeing him back in the Senate as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Now, there's a lot of talk around at the moment, and as a female member of the Liberal Party, this, I imagine you have a view on this, but the debate around gender quotas is continuing. There seems to be more people on the Conservative side of politics coming around to the concept of quotas. I just can't see how they actually mechanically work.
Well, Stephen, as I've said before, going back to the beginning of this discussion, conflating the bad behaviour by politicians with pre-selection processes to argue for quotas is both illogical and wrong. Pre-selection should always be on merit, and individuals should always be responsible for their own actions. And therefore, I do not believe that quotas are a solution to the issue, and the two issues should not be conflated.
But let's have a look at the secondary, or when I say secondary issues, secondary to the issue of the treatment of women. But obviously we would like to see a greater gender balance in Parliament. But, I mean, I can't see why women on the Conservative side of politics would even put their hand up, given the treatment that they receive, particularly from the media. I mean, look at Nicole Flint and Amanda Stoker in recent times. Nicole Flint comes out and says, look, I've been treated badly, and the response to that is she's treated even worse.
Well, as a Conservative woman myself, and having been there longer than both Nicole and Amanda, I do understand. And as we've seen in the past, where there have been programs for women to support them, it's all very well, but they didn't really help Conservative women. And I have to say that the Liberal sisterhood has been noticeably absent, especially when it was needed, and we saw that with Nicole Flint. But let me go back to your point. In New South Wales, a third of the seats are in New South Wales, Stephen, and we are about to embark at the next federal election. All federal pre-selections in New South Wales will be under our new plebiscite system, and I and others struggled very hard and long over 20 years to get the plebiscite system. And why is a plebiscite system very important? Because with the expansion of the Liberal Party, as we have seen in New South Wales, we've seen over 10% growth. That affords a much growing and diverse base from which will, I have no doubts, emerge good candidates, including more women, who will feel much more comfortable nominating, because pre-selection will be on a more equitable basis. In short, they will be chosen on their merit. And Stephen, I come back to this point. Selection should always be on merit. And this is a view that is widely supported by the grassroots in New South Wales. We don't want a situation where quotas return us back to the old days, where the factional bosses and their power is entrenched. That's why we fought so hard, and that's why I think that merit should always be the primary determinant of selection or promotion. Otherwise, cultural changes will never occur.
You know, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. The vaccine rollout, of course, is in the news. It's slower than it should be by all accounts, but I think people are just getting sick of state and federal governments blaming each other. I mean, it's gotten to the point where buck passing has reached epic levels that we've never seen before.
Well, Stephen, the public don't want to see public spats between the Commonwealth and the state and the territories, and National Cabinet was supposed to facilitate cooperation between the states and the Commonwealth during this period. I think the bottom line is that Australians are not interested in any form of bickering. They just want to get vaccinated so that they can get on with their lives.
What do we need to do to improve the situation? I know that CSL is starting to roll out the locally made vaccines, and their production is going to ramp up. The New South Wales government has suggested that it is going to institute mass vaccination centres, maybe using, I think the Olympic site at Homebush was suggested. Is that the answer? I mean, do the states need to put these processes in place? But, and if they do, can the federal government keep up with the demand?
Well, the point is it comes down to the supply of the vaccine, and that's really been the issue at this particular point in time. And we've seen over recent days the issue in relation to AstraZeneca, and we were anticipating that AstraZeneca would supply us with 3.8 million doses in the early stage of our rollout. Now, AstraZeneca has not been able to secure the export licence from Europe to send the doses. So now we've got this situation where we had 3.8 million doses, which we had pre-purchased from overseas supplies, but only a certain number, I think it's only about 700,000, have been delivered to date. And so the Australian government is continuing to pursue those 3.1 million doses manufactured in Europe. So now there's this sort of backwards and forwards in relation to that. But in the end, Stephen, all that we want, we've ordered them, and we want the vaccines to be able to make sure that the supply is adequate for then it to be rolled out here in Australia.
There's a certain irony to the fact that a lot of these doses were supposed to come from Italy and they've refused to send them to us, but Italians are reluctant to take the vaccine themselves. I mean, sometimes it's hard to get your head around that.
Well, I think we'll just leave that one as it is. We know that there was that 250,000 doses that should have come, but then was blocked as a consequence of it being deviated to Italy. I have to say, Stephen, that when you do look at the circumstances in Europe, we are in a far better position, not only as a consequence of the fact that we've had low numbers, but more to the point, we are lucky in the sense that we have our own sovereign vaccine manufacturing capability, which will be very crucial as the rollout of the vaccine increases with more and more batches rolling out from CSL.
Indeed.
In Melbourne.
Connie, great to speak to you this morning. Thank you for stepping into the breach, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
We'll see you talk to you next week. Thanks.
All the best.
Bye.
New South Wales Senator Concetta Fierravanti-Wells. It's 7:18.